lecture outline, which is the nutritional requirements. So any living cells or tissues or organism needs energy, and that's why it is requirement of nutrition to continue their lives. And in that nutritional requirement, we will go over what is the metabolic rate, what caloric requirement we need for the continuation of life. The group of biochemical reaction in an organism is called metabolism. And metabolism is the either breakdown of large molecule or synthesize large molecule from smaller ones. So when we break down, we call it catabolism. And when we synthesize from a smaller to the large molecule, then we call them anabolism. And these all are biochemical reactions. So you have substrate, you have enzyme, and then you have product. And combination of both catabolism and anabolism together is called metabolism. Okay. So like any chemical reaction, you need enzyme and you need catalyst in the enzyme for the enzymes, cofactor for the enzyme. We also need the cofactor, and they play a role for the function of enzymes, and those factors are vitamins in our body. So we're going to talk about role of vitamins in metabolism. That means in catabolism and anabolism of macronutrients. When we do the metabolism or biochemical reaction inside our body, our cells, there is a lot of the free atoms, free radicals, like hyperactive atoms are produced. Cations are produced. And we call them free radicals. Those free radicals have some good function, some bad function. And to protect from them, we have some antioxidants. So we're going to talk about what is free radicals, where they come from, and what are the other factors which can prevent the untoward, unwanted effect by those free radicals. No matter what, these all medical, the biochemical reactions in the body is regulated by the endocrine system of our body. That means they are regulated by the hormones. And hormones are the chemical compound produced by endocrine glands. For example, thyroid hormone, insulin, glucagon, the aldosterone, oxytocin, these all hormones, antidiuretic hormone, regulates the metabolism in the body. So we're going to talk about regulation of energy metabolism. And there are several metabolism, energy metabolism, metabolism of calcium, phosphate, protein, fat, everything. So they are regulated by several factors, but we're going to focus on how hormones regulates them. Okay, that is hormonal regulation of metabolism. Okay, so those are the things we're going to talk about, basically how our body makes energy, and then how it stores, how they synthesize new things, how they break it, and what are the factors helping the cells and the tissues to do that job. Okay, so nutritional requirement. We need nutrition to survive and to function. That's why living tissue is maintained by constant expenditure of energy from ATP. ATP is adenosine triphosphate. ATP is adenosine triphosphate. We know it. Adenosine phosphate. Okay. So, and ATP is derived from glucose, fatty acid, ketone bodies, amino acids, and other intermediate products. So ultimately, when you take our food, what we're going to do, we make smallest subunits of carb, which is glucose, smallest subunit of fat, which is fatty acid. And then if fat is further broken down, we make ketone bodies, which our brain can use, brain cells. And then ultimate subunit of the protein is amino acid and some other intermediate like pyruvates, pyruvic acid, lactate, lactic acid. Those things also indirectly produce energy. So you're gonna say how our body needs ATP and why we need all the time nutrition to maintain our life. Energy of food is commonly measured in calories. So how much energy a particular kind of food is producing is measured in the form of calories. So 1 kilocalories is like 1,000 calories. Carbohydrate and protein yield 4 kilocalorie per gram. Fat, 9 kilocalorie per gram. Alcohol, how much? Anybody has idea?
7.
7. So we can live just drinking, but we don't do that. Why?
Your liver would be really sad.
Yes, liver will be sad because the, as you said, there is like free radicals and intermediate products, which is toxic. When the alcohol is metabolized by the liver, they produce intermediate products, and those intermediate products, if build up, that can damage the liver cells and other cells in the body, and they produce a lot of the free radicals, which can damage your body easily. That's why. Okay, so metabolism is a chemical reaction in the body, particularly inside the cell. Okay, includes synthesis and energy storage reactions. So anabolism is both synthetic reaction, and energy liberating reaction is catabolism. So let's see one example. I'm going to give you example and you guys tell me yourself which one is anabolism and which one is catabolism. So when you have just taken your lunch and you have eaten a lot of carb, fat, and protein. Now, if you have eaten like sugary lunch, then you have a lot of carb, particularly. Carb is glucose, fructose, and galactose in the smallest form. Those glucose from your intestine is absorbed and then goes first where?
Bloodstream.
Bloodstream. From the bloodstream, where does it go? Which organ receive that first?
Liver.
Liver. Very good. Liver. So in the liver, immediately after like an hour after your lunch, what happens? You have a lot of sugar in your liver. So liver takes that glucose, individual glucose molecules, and then knit them together and make a big chain, which is called glycogen. That making of glycogen by your hepatocytes after you eat is anabolism or catabolism?
Anabolism.
Anabolism. Good. That's anabolism because you are synthesizing, making new, big chain. And then let's see by 5 p.m. you're hungry now, but your body is still maintaining pretty much normal range blood glucose. And that is possible only where your liver cells breaks down that stored glycogen into glucose and liberate that glucose and put into your blood from the liver. And you are secreting, your liver is secreting like glucose into your blood. That is catabolism because you are breaking down. Okay, so that is anabolism, catabolism, and anabolism and catabolism together is metabolism. Anabolic reaction makes anything in your body. Let's see, when you exercise, your muscle mass in the skeletal muscle increase. How they increase? Because your muscle cells takes glucose or amino acid and then make new protein. They take glucose, and from glucose, they also make amino acid. Do you know that? Like, you don't have to eat only protein to make to make protein. Your body, if you exercise, if your body needs, and if you exercise, and if your body needs protein, your body can take glucose or fat and then can make protein, can make amino acid, synthesize amino acid. Your body cannot synthesize essential amino acid, which is not made by your body. You must have take from outside. Like, we have 20 total amino acids. Out of 20, 8 amino acids are essential amino acids. They are not made by your body if you don't take from outside. You must take in your nutrition, in your food, that you cannot make. But other protein you can synthesize from fat or carb. Okay, that's why exercise is important to make protein in your body, even you are eating fat or sugar. Okay, so anabolic reaction synthesize DNA, because DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid. So there is sugar, ribose sugar. That's why you have to synthesize sugar. RNA, your body can make protein from amino acid, fat from fatty acid, or from carb, or from protein, or you synthesize carbohydrate using glycogen. That is the anabolic reaction. And they must occur constantly to replace molecules that are hydrolyzed in catabolic reactions. So once you use your molecules in your body, and it goes, you lose by wear and tear, by working, by their lifespan, they all are replaced. Like, for example, when you cut when you are eating, or you scratch your oral cavity mucosa and you see there is painful one night, but after 2 nights, you're going to see there is everything cleared. So the cells, the epithelium made there, are the synthetic product. They come from anabolism. Okay. Okay, so do that metabolic reaction, we need vitamins as a cofactor for the enzymes in that metabolism. So what is the role of vitamins in that metabolism, which are the cofactors? So vitamins are small organic molecules that serve as coenzyme in the metabolic reactions. They help the enzymes. That's why vitamins are essential for normal growth and development of multicellular organism. Vitamins are classified as either water soluble or fat soluble. Do you remember when you eat fat, fat is absorbed only from one organ in the GI tract, and that is
Small intestine.
small intestine. And once it is absorbed, where does it go?
Lymph.
Fat.
Lymphatic vessels, and from there it goes to neck veins, and from the neck veins it goes to your superior vena cava, and then into your right heart. So the fat absorbed and put into lacteals or lymphatic vessels also carry fat soluble vitamins. So if you have problem with absorbing fat, like if your liver is failing and you are not making enough bile, or your pancreas is abnormal and it is not making a lot of lipase, in that case you cannot absorb fat, at the same time, you cannot absorb fat-soluble vitamins. So the cirrhotic patient cannot absorb fat as well as fat-soluble vitamins. Okay. So in humans, there are 13 vitamins, and they are classified as either fat-soluble or water-soluble. So fat-soluble vitamins are stored in the fat in your body. And that's why you don't need a lot at once in amount. You need in like a small amount, but continuously. Whereas water soluble vitamins, you cannot store them because they are water soluble. So from your interstitial space or from your blood or from your tissue, easily excrete through the water into your tissue fluid, into your feces, or into your urine, or sweating, or saliva. That's why water soluble vitamins you need every day. Okay. So these 13 vitamins are fat soluble A, D, E, and K, and 9 water soluble vitamins, 8 B vitamins, and 1 C vitamins. And these all vitamins has different kind of scientific names. Okay. So water soluble vitamins dissolve easily in water and in general are readily excreted from the body. So let's see, if you eat like 6 oranges in a day, you will have a lot of vitamin C. You will not use that vitamin C. Most of the vitamin C you will pee through your urine. It will not store in your body. Okay. Because they are not readily stored. Consistent daily intake is important for well-being of health. Okay. Fat soluble vitamins are absorbed through the intestinal tract with the help of lipids, fats, because they are more likely to accumulate in the body. They are more likely to lead to hypervitaminosis. So if you take large amount of water soluble vitamins, what happens? It will not deposit in your body and it will not cause bad effect, unwanted effects in your body. But if you take other, like there was one time supplemental vitamins was like a fashion. If you eat healthy, honestly, if you eat healthy, you don't need any vitamins from outside. As long as your body is normal, like if you are absorbing everything, you don't have any GI tract problem or other problem. If you're regular individual and you are taking regular healthy meal, you don't need vitamin supplementation. And indiscriminate use of fat soluble vitamins can cause hypervitaminosis, which is accumulation of vitamins in the tissue and causing damage to the vital organs like liver, pancreas, kidney, brain, and other organs. So main vitamins, their source, function, and deficiency. Vitamin A found in yellow vegetables and fruit. And this vitamin con contains visual pigment, rhodopsin. You know, in the retina, you have rhodopsin, and every time light comes, they bleach it. And for regeneration, you need these vitamins. So deficiency of this vitamin can cause night blindness, dry skin. All the epithelial cells in the body also need vitamin A. B1 is thiamine. These are found in these organs. And this is cofactor for to catalyze decarboxylation. And if you have deficiency, that is caused beriberi neuritis, peripheral neuritis. Similarly, B2, B6, B12. B12 is also called cyanocobalamins. This is the cobalt vitamins. Okay, it's a combination of vitamin B12 is cyanine and the cobalt. They are found like exclusively in animal product. What is the role of this vitamin? Coenzyme for amino acid metabolism, needed for erythropoiesis. So to absorb these vitamins, this vitamin is water soluble, but to absorb these vitamins, you need something from your GI tract. Anybody remember if you have read gastrointestinal tract?
Intrinsic factor.
Very good. You need intrinsic factor. Intrinsic factor is produced by your parietal cells in the gastric gland, and they bind with cyanocobalamin, vitamin B12, and then takes it to the last part of your small intestine that is called terminal ileum, where it is absorbed. And then it is coenzyme for amino acid metabolism that is needed in the process steps of red blood cell formation. That's why to make red blood cell, you need vitamin B12. If you're a strict vegetarian, vegan particularly, not vegetarian, vegan, you don't eat any meal or any animal product, then you'll suffer from vitamin B12 deficiency. In that case, you need to take vitamin B12 from outside, okay? And deficiency causes anemia, that is called pernicious anemia. There is biotin, there is vitamin C that is found in the citrus fruit, green leafy vegetables. And this is needed for synthesis of collagen. Collagen is a protein which is found in your connective tissue, like in your bone, in your cartilage, in your deep and superficial fossa, this area, collagen. And deficiency of this vitamin C, which is needed for collagen synthesis, then you will have deficiency of collagen, and that disease is called scurvy. So this vitamin deficiency was found in First World War. Like the armies were fighting for like month on the boat and ship, and they were like eating only dry fruit then, and they have no vitamin C for a long time. So they all started bleeding, and a lot of the armies died from bleeding disorder. And that the time the then doctors found that this is deficiency of vitamin C, and that disease is called scurvy. Vitamin D is found particularly in fish liver. So you need to eat fish liver to get vitamin D. And that is needed for absorption of calcium and phosphate from your kidney, from your small intestine. And if you have deficiency, then in children, the disease will be rickets. In adult, that disease will be osteomalacia. Because if children get lack of vitamin D and calcium and phosphate, then their bones bend a lot, and we call them rickets. In the osteomalacia, that's like the rough bone in the adult. E is found in the milk, and they act as antioxidant, and the deficiency can cause non-hereditary muscular dystrophy. Muscular dystrophy is usually X-linked disorder, which is inheritance disease, but this is non-hereditary muscular dystrophy caused by vitamin E. Because it is antioxidant, it metabolizes the free radicals, and it is used like when you have a sun exposure to your skin every time, the UV radiation try to kill your epithelial cells, damage their DNA. And E vitamins to reduce that free radicals and protect your epithelium. A lot of aesthetic beauty products misuse this vitamin E, put in their product, and they say they're gonna protect your skin. Folate is found in green leafy vegetables, and they are needed for a reaction that transfer one carbon in the red blood cell formation and other amino acid production. And deficiencies K are the anemia. Vitamin K is needed for to make clotting factor by your liver. Niacin found in liver, meat, and yeast, and they are part of NAD, NADP. Where do you find this NAD, NADPH? Inside the cell. Like in the Krebs cycle, when electrons are liberated. The NADP gets NADPH, NADH, NADPH. They get receive hydrogen ion, and then later transport that electrons during the electron transport chain in your mitochondria to make ATP. That's why you need niacin. And deficiency cause pellagra. Pantothenic acid is part of coenzyme A, and deficiency cause these disease. So you can go over these things.
I have a question about the niacin.
Uh-huh.
I thought that's where free radicals came from, was the free electrons that don't bond and synthesize the ATP in the electron transport chain. I thought that's where majority of your those free radicals come from.
Yeah, there is like most of that's endogenous free radicals, and there are some exogenous free radicals too, which comes from outside. For example, UV radiation, medication, alcohol, or any exogenous. But most of the free radicals, as you said, emerge from your uh, biochemical reaction inside the mitochondria.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so free radicals are highly reactive and oxidize or reduce other atoms. So let's see, if an element lose electrons, then it is oxidized. When an element gain electrons, then it is reduced. Means reduction, because you are taking negative charge electron. That's why you reduced, or you are getting positive, losing negative. That's why you are oxidized. Okay. So the major free radicals are reactive oxygen or reactive nitrogen species. So either oxygen or nitrogen can receive or donate electron. That's why we call them reactive species, because they can contain oxygen or nitrogen with unpaired electrons. They are nitrogen oxide radicals, superoxide radicals, and hydroxyl radicals. Okay. So what is the function? They serve important physiological function, like the free radicals bind with the bacterial cell wall and then destroy them. They can bring a local effect in the cell, in the tissue, and increase the diameter of the blood vessels so that more blood flow in that area, more phagocytes will come and can cause inflammation, or can neutralize toxin, or can kill microorganisms, because more phagocytes will travel in that area. Can stimulate cell proliferation, means division of the cells. They stimulate mitosis. But in excess can also exert oxidative stress, which can kill the cells easily and earlier. And that can produce some disease states. For example, they can damage the lipids parts of your cell, protein parts of your cell, and DNA from your nucleus. These free radicals also promote apoptosis. Apoptosis is like natural death of the cell. Like when somebody gets like 105 years, and then his or her body, all body part goes slowly shrink, non-function. That is in a sense apoptosis. So each cell, let's say there is like a very young cell, and then you hit it with the physical trauma. Then what happens? Once there is trauma, there will be chemical reaction starting, inflammation starting, more phagocytes will come and start chemical reaction, inflammation, and then there is necrosis and damage of the tissue. That is not normal death of the cell. That is called necrosis. But if the cell, let's say your skin cell is old, in that cell time, what does it, at the terminal stage of that particular cell, what does cell do? First, that terminal stage of the cells, inside the cell, the lysosome vesicles breaks off and release lysosome enzymes, lysozymes. And that lysosomes earlier was in packet, is a package, but now it is liberated. So that lysosome then digest your DNA first. And then when control center of the cell is digested, then cell from this side slowly shrink. And once shrink, then nearby phagocytes like macrophage comes and eat them. That is called apoptosis, normal death of the cell. It also, it helps in apoptosis. I was talking about what free radicals do, and I was explaining everything about apoptosis. So come to the ground again. Free radical can help apoptosis. Free radical can also augment aging, inflammatory disease, degenerative disease, and other malignant condition, which is cancers. Underlying cause is widespread production of superoxide free radicals by mitochondria. Okay, so free radicals can damage other tissues, at the same time can produce free radicals itself. So from that information, what you got? Free radicals are essential part of our body. So we need to balance, neither more nor less. It needs to be balanced. So here you go. In the left side, you can see there is excessive reactive oxygen species or free radicals. In the right side, you have inadequate reactive oxygen species or free radicals. What they do and where they come from. Let's see here. The source of free radicals are endogenous, which produced in our body, or exogenous, which is coming from outside. So endogenous source are mitochondria. When mitochondrial reaction, we produce them. Perioxysomes, like the vesicle of enzymes inside the cell. NADPH, oxidase enzyme inside the cell, and other enzymes. Whereas exogenous outer source are UV radiation, UV ultraviolet light, ionizing radiation, the radiation which ionize the molecules, means take out or add electrons. Drugs, several drugs, particularly chemotherapeutic agents like anti-cancer drugs. Inflammatory cytokines, when you have inflammation, your cells release a lot of chemotactic factor. Those factors are called cytokines. Those cytokines can also produce reactive oxygen species. Environmental toxins like malathion, DDT, which is not used nowadays, or a lot of weed killers. Environmental gases, carbon monoxide, those can be source of exogenous free radicals. To protect from these both endogenous and exogenous, we have antioxidant defense in our body. And those are the enzymes like catalase, superoxide dismutase. And these enzymes are found in the macrophages in our body, like neutrophil, the eosinophil macrophages. Glutathione peroxidase, glutathione, then vitamins. So which vitamins are antioxidant? Vitamins A, vitamin C, and vitamin E are the antioxidants and other antioxidants in the body. Okay, so if you have excessive, that can cause cell death, disease, and aging. If you have inadequate, then you have impaired immune function, impaired cell proliferation, means cell division, and other impaired function of the immune system in the body. Okay, so now the regulation of metabolic balance. So in our body, both breaking down reaction and synthetic reactions are always in balance. So what happens if you are breaking down less and you are putting in your body more, then you are synthesizing more. Then what? That's why we have a big body weight. We are not in balance. Because you put more sugar, but you don't break down, no catabolism. So what happens? Sugar becomes glycogen, then liver says, I cannot hold glycogen. Then liver also produce fat. And then fat moves from there, come into your skin, come into your visceral organ, come into your subcutaneous tissue, and start deposit there, and that is fat. Okay, that's why you have to balance the intake and output. So balance between anabolism and catabolism depends on several hormones in the body, but most important metabolic hormones are insulin from pancreas, glucagon from pancreas, growth hormone from pituitary, thyroxine hormone from thyroid glands, the corticosteroid hormone from your adrenal glands. So these glands and hormones balance catabolism and anabolism in the body. So let's see here. You have glycogen in the liver, which was made from glucose. Through the catabolism, the glycogen is catabolized by your hepatocytes enzymes and made glucose, and then glucose is sent into your blood to use to the tissue. But if you have a lot of glucose, what does your liver do? Join them and mix glycogen. Same thing when you eat fat, that is triglycerides. Through the catabolism breaking down process, you make fatty acid and glycerol. And when you have lack of this, or when you are using your muscle, running or exercising, then those triglycerides are broken down and use energy, make energy. Or if you're not using, then what happens? These fatty acid again is stored as triglycerides. Same thing, protein, amino acid, and making again protein. Okay, so you see the hormones like insulin is anabolic hormone. Why insulin is anabolic hormone? Can you make connection? Why it is anabolic? If you are presenting on diabetes, you have all the notes here. I should understand. So what happens when you take meal and your blood glucose increase, then your pancreas release insulin. And then what does insulin do? Insulin pull blood from your blood and put into the cell, particularly the liver cell, fat cell, and skeletal muscle cell. And then that glucose is either used or stored in the form of glycogen in the cell. Muscle glycogen, the liver glycogen, and that's why insulin is called anabolic hormone. Sex steroid like testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, they are also anabolic hormone. They add a lot of proteins. Growth hormone, thyroxine, these are all hormone, does the same function. Growth hormone and thyroxine hormone is like both way. The catabolic hormone too, based on their amount. So catabolic hormone is glucagon, epinephrine, which is just opposite of this one. Glucocorticoids. Okay. This is the table and giving endocrine regulation of metabolism. So let's see how they do one thing. Like insulin. What is the role of insulin? What is the role of insulin on blood glucose? It decreases blood glucose. How? By transporting glucose from your blood into the cell, particularly 3 kinds of cells. Insulin can bind with only 3 kinds of cells in the body. That is liver cell, hepatocytes, fat cell, adipocytes, and myocyte, skeletal muscle cells. Okay. So what these cells do then? Increase glycogen formation, reduce glycogenolysis. Because you have already a lot of glucose in your blood, you don't want to break down glycogen and put it into your blood. That's why glycogenolysis is reduced. Reduce gluconeogenesis. Gluconeogenesis is making glucose from non-glycogenic component. What do you mean by that? Making glucose from other source, not from glycogen. So you can make glucose from fat and you can make glucose from amino acid. That's why we call them gluconeogenesis. So when you are not eating, like let's say you are eating absolute fat and protein, no carb at all. That means your blood will not have any glucose? No, there will be. Because these cells can take fat, amino acid, and they can make glucose. And that is called gluconeogenesis, making glucose from new thing. It also increase protein synthesis, like they use these things and make protein. On the lipid, they have more lipid formation, reduce breaking down of lipid, reduce ketogenesis, making ketone bodies. There are 3 ketone bodies in our body. What are they?
Was one of them acetone?
Acetone, beta hydroxybutyrate, and acetoacetate. They are the ketone bodies. Okay, so making ketone bodies is also inhibited here by insulin. Glucagon has just opposite function. Similarly, you can go over growth hormone, glucocorticoid, epinephrine, thyroid hormones. Okay, so hormonal interaction in metabolic regulation. Let's see how our liver and fat cell play with glucose or protein with the help of, or fat with the help of insulin. So how insulin works. After the meal period, after you have eaten, within 2 hours, your blood glucose increase. Okay, so that increased blood glucose increase the insulin from your pancreas, and that insulin then increase the uptake of this glucose by the liver cell. Whereas growth hormone inhibit it. Okay, now once this glucose is inside the cell, what they do? They dehydrate them, take out water, and make the chain of glucose, glycogen, and is stored as the temporary pigment, not temporary, the storage inside the liver in the form of glycogen. Now let's see 4 a.m. in the morning, you have no sugar in your blood or very low sugar, and still your body needs to maintain sugar. So what does it do? That time your body will increase glucagon, epinephrine, and inhibit insulin. And now glucagon will break down this glycogen and release glucose outside this liver cell and put it into your blood. Whereas insulin is less there, so it inhibits. Adipose cells, on the other hand, insulin help fat cells. You see, fat cells look like signet ring. Their nuclei are pushed on the side because whole cell is packed with fat droplets. So insulin activate adipose cells to take glycerol and free fatty acid. From free fatty acid and glucose, from the glucose they make glycerol inside the cell, and they mix the glucose and glycerol and make triglycerides. So whether you eat fat or a lot of sugar, your liver cell will make them fat. You see, that's why I say if you want to reduce weight and fat in your body, reduce not only fat food, reduce the sugar too, because sugar is also turned into fat. Got it? So now this triglyceride then is released from body and then broken down further by these enzymes and turn into free fatty acid and glycerol. Okay. So beta cell, as I said, once you have increased blood glucose, your pancreas, particularly beta cell in the pancreas, will release insulin. So how does it happen? So what is the mechanism of action of insulin secretion? Okay. So increased blood glucose is the stimulus for beta cells. This is beta cell. This whole cell is beta cell to release insulin. So how that happens? Increased blood glucose, they bind with glucose transporter 2 protein in the plasma membrane of beta cell. And then glucose is inside the cell. Glucose is phosphorylated and becomes glucose 6-phosphate through glycolysis. And the cells have already made insulin and is stored in the form vesicles, you see. So now oxidative phosphorylation of the glucose 6-phosphate, and then they make ATP. Increase in the ATP ratio to ADP that closes potassium channels on the plasma membrane of beta cell. If potassium channels are closed, what happens? Where is more potassium, inside the cell or outside the cell normally?
Inside the
Outside the
cell?
cell?
Inside the cell. That's why there is more potassium. If there is more potassium, that means more positive. More positive means cell are slowly, beta cell is slowly getting depolarized. Number 4, once beta cell depolarize, that opens voltage gated calcium channels. Where is more calcium, outside the cell or inside the cell? Outside the cell. So calcium will pass through these calcium channels. And then you know calcium is second messenger. This calcium sensor protein fuse this vesicle containing insulin with the plasma membrane of beta cell. And then through the exocytosis, insulin is secreted and circulate in your blood, travel all over the body, go to the skeletal muscle cell, fat cells, and hepatocyte liver cells, bind on the receptor on those cells, and they put a similar channel, glucose transporter channel, that is called glucose transport channel 4, GLUT4, and that helps glucose from outside to put into those cells and then make ATP. That's how insulin maintain glucose. Every steps what I said here is written in the word, so you don't have to like worry about what I said earlier. Okay. So effect of feeding and the fasting on metabolism. Same thing. When you are feeding, insulin is high. When you are fasting, what happens? Glucagon is high. Okay. So after absorption of meal, your blood glucose is high. That's why you have increased glucose and decreased glucagon from pancreas. Pancreas has 2 kinds of cells, major. Alpha cell produce glucagon and beta cell produce insulin. So ratio of glucagon and insulin in glucagon is high. That is formation of glycogen, fat, and protein inside those 3 cells. Then once that happens, then what happens? Blood glucose drops, amino acid drops, fatty acid drops, ketone bodies level drops, and then it inhibits again. And that's how homeostasis is maintained in your body. But in the fasting, like 4 a.m. in the morning, just opposite happens. Okay, that is the effect of feeding and fasting on metabolism. Okay. So this is comparison of diabetes. Diabetes is two types, type 1 and type 2. Okay, here you go, type 1, type 2. Type 1, the basic difference between type 1 and type 2 is type 1 means there is lack of insulin or no insulin. Type 2 means there is either normal insulin level or there is even increased insulin level. But what is the abnormality then? The receptor where insulin binds, that receptor has problem. And that is called type 2. So let's see what are the difference. Usual age at onset under 20 years, over 40 years. So usually type 2 you'll get after 40 years. Development of symptoms. Once you have no beta cells, no insulin, you will have type 1. It is very slowly. First you get pre-diabetic and then you get diabetes. Percentage of diabetic population, very few, 5%. Most of the diabetes is type 2, 95%. And it is associated with genetics as well as lifestyle. Development of ketoacidosis, common and very rare in type 2. Ketoacidosis means you don't have glucose in type 1. You don't have insulin, so no glucose inside your cell. But your cell need energy, your brain need energy. So what does your cell do? They break down fat. And when you break down fat, you make ketone bodies. And that release a lot of hydrogen ion. That's why it causes ketoacidosis. Common, rare. Association with obesity, type 1, rare. Most of the type 1 patient, if you have seen any of them, they are very lean and thin people. Type 2, common in obesity. That's why lifestyle modification is the good treatment for type 2. Beta cells of islets at onset of disease pretty much destroyed beta cells. No destroyed here. Beta cells are normal. Insulin secretion decreased, very minimum or no. Here you have either normal insulin or increased insulin. Type 1 is usually autoimmune because there are some T lymphocytes which can attack your own beta cells or your pancreas or islets of Langerhans, and that can reduce the insulin. So they are autoimmune disorder and usually present with other autoimmune disorder too. There is no autoantibodies in type 2. MHC association, type 1, yes. Nobody knows about type 2. Treatment, absolutely insulin injection, diet, exercise, oral stimulators of insulin sensitivity. This is the diabetes. If you don't control diabetes, you're gonna, so diabetes, hypertension are the disease. Where you control it, it is not a disease. If you don't control it, it is the multi-systemic disease. Okay. So it can, like insulin deficiency, decrease secretion, resistance, or both. Then what happens? Increase hepatic glycogenolysis. You break down glycogen. Increase hepatic gluconeogenesis. You make more glucose from other source. Increase hepatic ketogenesis, making ketone bodies. Increase lipolysis. Decrease, so you are not using the ketone bodies. Decrease glucose utilization, and that will ultimately leads to hyperketonemia, increase ketone bodies in your blood, increase glucose in your blood, hyperglycemia. And if you have these molecules high in your blood, that increase osmotic pressure of your blood. And that retention, they retain water, sodium, potassium, calcium. So in that case, if you have osmotic pressure increase, that will get into your urine and increase the osmolarity of your urine. So you will not absorb water. And most of the water, sodium, potassium, calcium, will pass in your urine. And that causes dehydration, volume depletion, hypotension, and sometimes with ketone bodies, metabolic acidosis. Okay, so that is all about the metabolism. Okay.